Welcome to Hacking Postgres, a podcast about extensions, extension creators, and other interesting, innovative things in the world of Postgres. I'm Ry Walker, founder of Tembo, a managed Postgres company, and today I'm here with Bertrand Drouvot, and I know I said it poorly, but Bertrand, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ry, and no, that was perfectly said.
Yeah, so I'd love to start with if you could give us a quick background. Where'd you grow up? I'm guessing it's France, but
Yes, yes.
What were you doing before you started working on Postgres? I'm always curious to hear background.
Yeah, so as you can hear, I am French. I grew up in the east of France. So before doing Postgres, I did about 20 years of Oracle DBA as a freelancer or working in some companies. And then I switched to Postgres about 5 years ago now, and doing it as a full-time job since, about 4 years now.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you remember when you first started using Postgres? I mean, you probably touched it earlier in your career, or was it really like a first touch just 5 years ago?
Yeah, it was really a first touch 5 years ago. Before that, it was Oracle, mainly Oracle, but wanted to see something else and wanted to contribute one way or another, not using a black box. And so that's why I moved to Postgres.
Do you like Oracle better than Postgres?
That's not the same, but I prefer Postgres because I can be involved in the new features, bug fix, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, awesome. So tell me, let's talk about some of your Postgres work. I know you've worked on PG Sentinel, but I'd love to know what you've built in the past, and then maybe what you're working on now. But we can start with the past.
Yeah, so when I started studying Postgres, I was comparing with what I knew in the Oracle world, and I was like, something like active session history was not there, and I was like, so let's try to build this, and this is how PG Sentinel came up. So it's an extension that records active session, so it's pulling regularly active session from pgstat activity. You can define the sampling period and as well as the number of records to retain. It's a in-memory ring buffer. And before PG14, I think, the query ID was not present in pgstat activity. So I had also to make use of, I think, the post-parse analyze hook to get the query ID and to show this up, so that in every PG Sentinel record, you see what the session was doing and which query ID was associated at the time of the sampling.
It's interesting. Like we're like literally building dashboards right now, and I think we need PG Sentinel perhaps, because I'm like I want to know the history of the sessions, and does it get exposed? Yeah. I don't know. Like, are people getting this data pushed out via Prometheus? Because like we consume all of these metrics from Postgres via Prometheus. I wonder. You said it's stored in memory, but like how do I access that besides running a query? I guess.
Yeah. So there is basically a view on top of the in-memory ring buffer. So this query, you can query the data, and I guess you can push it to Prometheus.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, okay. I mean, I think I just found a solution to a problem by inviting you to the podcast. Thanks. What are you actively working on that, or is that pretty much completed? What are you working on these days?
Yeah, so for PG Sentinel, it's more assuring, when there is a new major, assuring it compiles and still works as it should. And no more than that, and fixing bugs when they are reported. I also wrote another extension, which is PG Orphan. Could be useful to detect orphan files. I mean, in Postgres, it's easy to create orphan files. You just begin, create table, insert some data, and crash the server. Then you will get orphan files. So the extension detects the orphan files, then you can move them to a backup directory and verify everything is still okay, and then delete them, or push them back in the original directory if anything went wrong. It also takes care of existing transaction using a dirty snapshot so that you can see transactions that have started but not committed yet, so that you don't move files that are a part of any active transaction. And another one that is funny is PG direct pass. It enables to do insert bypassing the shared buffer and writing directly to disk. It has performance benefits because at the end you do less work. I mean, you don't need to find a free buffer and all this stuff. You just write to disk. And also it generates less wall because it only flush full page images by a bunch during that time.
Interesting. I'm curious, like the origin of these extensions, like for example, PG Sentinel, was that, you work at AWS, right? You work on, are you on like the RDS team, or are you, I'm curious, like how it's organized. Are you working directly on the features of that, or are you working with customers trying to use those, the RDS and Aurora?
Yeah, so currently I am part of the RDS contributor Postgres team, which our role is mainly to contribute to upstream, fixing bugs and provide new features.
Got it. Okay. But like Sentinel, was that something that RDS team wanted, or was that like a customer? Like what caused you to decide to work on that, or was it like your own idea? Like, hey, this, like you just personally wanted it to exist. I'm curious, like the origin of the project.
Yeah, so for PG Sentinel, I was even not employed by AWS at that time.
Oh.
I did it when I started to learn Postgres, in fact.
Okay.
Because I like to learn doing something and just not reading books or whatever. So
yeah. Okay. Got it. All right. Well, that's cool. Yeah. And so are you building extensions as part of, for Postgres as part of your, I get like you're contributing to, the core project, but is the extension work similarly just your own personal interests, or is it, related to, making the RDS, platform better, I guess?
yeah, so PG Find is an extension that is being used internally because we see or find files, so we have to deal with them, and so that's why this extension has been built. PG Direct Pass, it was more for fun and to mimic an Oracle feature that is allowing the direct pass insert. And yeah.
What challenge, like going back to building your first extension, what challenges were you faced with? So what was hard about it?
Yeah, it was not that easy. I think, so first of all, there is a lack of kind of template. You have to find an existing extension and try to, I mean, at least that's what I have done.
Yeah.
Try to understand how the existing extension works and try to find documentation around it. And yeah, I think it was not that easy. I think it is going better with PGRX because now it kind of provides an initial template so you can start building on top of this. But yeah, it was not that easy at the beginning.
Yeah. Would you use PGRX and Rust to build your next extension, or are you, I don't know, maybe like you're a hardcore C++ guy and prefer that? Like, I'm curious, like, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, so the last one I built it in C and in Rust, just because I am newcomer in Rust and I wanted to learn Rust and PGRX as well. So yes, I started to learn about it. Also, I think maybe there is some limitation in Rust, so it all depends what you need to do. If you, I mean, for memory management and this kind of stuff, maybe it's more difficult outside of the C world for Postgres.
Yeah, I think I've talked to Eric about, like, not everything has been exposed in PGRX, so like, yeah, you may have to, if you're doing something super deep, it may not have the right hooks for you. Yeah.
But the cool thing is that there is cross module that you can rely on, so it's easy if you want to interface with someone else's work, I would say.
And I think, well, the other thing I think it brings is that template, a standardized template that helps a new extension developer. You don't have to go hunt for one similar to yours. I imagine you probably spend some energy like trying to look at all the different extensions to find the right pattern, the close enough pattern to borrow. So, are there big milestones related to either your extensions or you can even say in Postgres that you're looking forward to?
What I would like to see is improvement in observability and this kind of stuff. For example, there is wait event, but for the moment there is no really details around it. For example, if you have a buffer content wait event, I would like to know for which relation, for example. And so this is kind of stuff I would like to try to contribute myself and to improve. That's an area I am interested in.
Is your goal to become a Postgres committer? Are you working towards that in your head?
Yeah, my goal is first to be a contributor.
Yeah.
Because for the moment, that's not the case. And trying to move step by step, yes, and to improve my knowledge and improve the product if I can.
Yeah. I think Sameh, our CTO at Tembo, did an analysis recently, and I think he saw it was like, I forget, it was like 7.5 years average amount of contributor time before you get to be a committer. In Postgres, I'd say it's as much time as like going to school to become a doctor. It's maybe even longer. So it's a pretty high bar. I think it's great in some ways that Postgres is so selective.
So maybe I'm already too old to reach this goal. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. Well, that's good. What's I'm curious, like, kind of shifting away a little from Postgres, but like what's, as an engineer, what are some of the most important lessons you've learned over your career? I know this is kind of an open-ended question, but does anything come to mind?
So listen to others, learn from others, and accept, remarks and different point of view.
Yeah,
I think it's very important.
Yeah. What do you think about the way Postgres work is managed, mailing list and diffs and stuff? I guess patches. Does it bother you at all, or do you kind of find it a refreshing difference from the GitHub way?
Yeah, so I am not that young, so working with email for me is perfectly fine, and I think it works pretty well. I mean, the project I think is working well that way. But yes, I can imagine that maybe younger people would like to work differently than by email.
Yeah.
But for my personal case, that's okay for me.
Yeah, I think that the interesting, the reason why I think it works so well is it's truly a global community, right? Like, and you can't, like, obviously if you have everybody in approximately the same time zone on a team, you can make decisions and have conversations outside of email. But I just think I think the discussion first, it's almost like a demo first, design first sort of mentality versus, hey, a PR just popped in, like, let's talk about that code. I don't know. I think it's refreshingly different. I think some other open source projects that want to be notable could adopt this methodology, even though like on the surface it feels very frictionful, but I think it's intentionally that way, like let's talk about this before we do it, right?
Yeah, that's right. And also explain why you would find this useful and everything like this. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And also there is conferences. I mean, during conferences, you can reach out to people and speaking about ideas and what you are working on as well.
Yeah. Do you go to the US conferences very much?
I went to PGConf New York.
Okay.
Not the last one, but the one before. So 2 years ago.
Got it.
And yes, that's for the US. That's the only one I did for the moment.
Got it. Yeah, I was in New York, this most recent one for the first
Yeah,
time. It was, yeah, it was an interesting experience. To see how internal, like, there's a lot of the vendors and builders of Postgres at the event. I think it's just impressive to me that Postgres has gotten to the point that it can have an event like that, and that's sustainable. A lot of other open source projects, I think, can't pull that off without it being somehow a commercial, endeavor. So I think it's cool.
And there is also PGConf Europe, that is a very big one as well.
Yeah. So talk to me. Do you spend more of your? I would like to give people a chance to talk about the commercial product they're working on too. Are you spending more time on RDS or Aurora, or are the lines between those pretty blurry in terms of how you work on your product?
No, I spend almost all my time on community side of things.
Yeah,
and
okay.
I am still involved in some Aurora or RDS related project because I was working in this area before I joined the Postgres contributor team.
Got it.
But yes, we are involved in case there is a bug or things like this.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah, that's the idea, is to have. It's nice to have a pack of contributors, nearby when things are going.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That makes sense. So you're used to. Yeah. You're. It's pretty pure. The role sounds like the role is pretty pure now. Pure community.
Yes.
Except when asked. Yeah.
Exactly.
What are some of the developments in Postgres ecosystem that you're excited about? Is there some whether it's other extensions or even stuff in the core?
Yeah. So I contributed to logical decoding on standby. I think that is now part of PG 16. I think it's a very useful feature and very asked one. So I think that's good. And now I am mostly involved in the slot synchronization. So to synchronize the slot on standby from slot on the primary, so that during a failover you can resume working from those slots.
Tell me, I'm new. I'm sort of new to Postgres. I'm meeting all these people, meeting you for the first time here. Who are some of your favorite people that I deserve attention for their good work? I'm curious. Name 2 or 3 people, and maybe potential future guests of the podcast.
Yeah, so I mean, there is people working on the community side and also people not known, so it really depends. I mean, the community itself is very good and really kind to help and all this stuff, so that's good. I mean, everyone on Hackers is good people.
Yeah. So you could just randomly select someone and then you're gonna find someone good. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Did someone recruit you? Like, who is it that got you into Postgres? Like, who hooked you in from Oracle land?
Myself.
Oh, you just decided to defect one day, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I really want to contribute to something open source, and so doing databases since 20 years, I chose the databases, and Postgres was the evident choice for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Have you ever messed with MySQL? Or did you consider MySQL at the same time?
Not at all.
Not at all. Yeah. Why not now? Okay. All right. So if you had a magic wand and you could add any feature magically to Postgres, what would you use that magic wand on?
Yeah. So observability.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, really to improve this area. I think now it's very rich in terms of feature and development feature, but observability, I think it's really an area to improve, in my opinion.
I mean, it's tricky. Like with an open source project, like again, I'm sure at AWS you guys do it a certain way too. But like we we get, I don't know how many, 350 Prometheus metrics out of it right now. Would you argue that like there's just how many more bits of information should we get? You know, like what's great observability? It seems like a lot, but I also think like sometimes I'm looking for information that's just not there. So maybe like a lot of low hanging fruit has been done, but not the hard stuff. Or like, yeah, I'm kind of curious, like what's missing in the observability that's available today.
Yeah, so I think it's really, for example, a wait event. I would like to have more details, like depending of each wait event. For example, data file wait, which file, for example. Also, since how long are you waiting on this wait event and stuff like this.
Do you feel like that is that data that's really for the people running Postgres, not so much for the end user necessarily, right? You're looking for better observability for the managed service provider of sorts, yeah.
Yeah, for DBA mainly, I think.
DBA, yeah.
Yeah. Especially the one coming from Oracle, and they are used to have a lot of observability. That I think,
yeah. It's interesting. Like, I'm trying to think like the role of DBA. I think like there's less, you know, the more managed Postgres there is, the less DBAs there are per se in terms of having access to those low level details. But yet in Postgres, a lot of people still self-host, you know, and you probably expect like that'll never go away, right?
Yeah, but even in managed services, I mean, for the moment, we can only provide what is available. So, I mean, if you look at Performance Insight, for example, you have the wait events, but at some time you need to guess what is really happening because there is a lack of details, I think.
Yeah. So you would make that available again in your Magic Wand scenario. You would add that information, and you would make it available even to end users in RDS because it can help them understand how to optimize how they're using RDS, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. Any other areas of observability that you think are big opportunities for improvements?
Yeah, for example, when a query is running, we'd like to know in which part of the plan is it running currently?
Yeah.
And stat activity display the plan ID, so I can also know which plan ID was used in the past, which one is used currently, and maybe there is a bad plan that were used and that's why it were slow before. This kind of area.
Yeah.
Also able to export statistic and import statistic, table statistic.
Do you ever run a query and it's like now this I would say I'm more on the novice side. I mean, I can write some pretty nice queries, you know, with all kinds of features, but I really don't understand like the deep depth, like how files are interacting and so on. But sometimes I run a query and it's like, oh, this one's taking a long time. I wonder why. Is there obviously I can. Has it ever been thought like it'd be kind of cool to run that same query but get a visual of what's going on inside? Are there services, or have you seen anything like that where a novice user could visualize what's going on inside of a long running query kind of as it's happening? Or does it have to be like, you know, an analytical process, you know, to figure out why it's gonna go slow?
I think so. Once you have the explain of the query, you can. There is some tools like, for example, one that Dalibo provides, which can graphically represent your execution, and then with a hotspot on the one that are taking most of the time. And so it's. I mean, this is something to. It's very important to visualize this kind of thing, I think.
Yeah. So which tool did you say does that?
I don't know the name by heart, but it's done by Dalibo.
Oh, okay. Dalibo. Yeah. Okay. I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Again, like one of the things we're trying to do with Tembo is just like bring advanced Postgres things to novice users. As you know, like most people using Postgres like have like gone 1% deep into the depths of what's there, and it's pretty intimidating for new users, I think. in a good way. I think, it's nice that it's deep and not shallow, but it's a lot.
I think
Is
it's
there?
the same for all products.
Yeah, that's
But
true. That's true. Yeah. I mean, the same thing with like Linux, right? Or Git. If you
yeah,
actually try to understand how Git works, you'd be like, oh man.
yeah,
Yeah. What is there anything about Postgres that almost nobody agrees with you? Like, do you have any contrarian opinions on anything? I know this is like me trying to get you to fight with the community, but I'm just curious. Like, I love hearing like contrarian views.
No, not that I can think about. I mean, yeah, when, for example, when I say there is lack of observability,
Yeah.
I don't think I have heard someone saying the contrary. So
Well, where does the observability belong, though? Does it belong inside of the core? I guess this could be a
Yeah.
point. Like, there's a bunch of extensions inside the core. You might argue like the PG Sentinel capability probably should be available to everyone without having to install an extension. But if there's 100 things like that, it bloats up Postgres. But yeah, maybe that. Like, do we need to put more observability stuff in the main project, or does it belong outside?
yeah, I was mainly thinking in the main project. Yes.
Yeah.
Provide more details about what's going on.
And turned on by default, like, or
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Okay.
I mean, depending of the cost of it, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Does anyone, well, like PG stat statements, that's not turned on by default, right?
On core Postgres, no, but
Yeah.
on
On managed
most of the cloud
services.
providers, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, would you argue like that should be turned on by default all the time? I know that because there's little cost, right? Like everything has a cost.
Yeah.
That's a tricky one.
I mean, I think in production it has to be. I mean, at the end, when something goes wrong, you need to have something to analyze. If not,
Yeah, I agree.
it's difficult.
Yeah. Okay. So, but like once again, like production issues, it's just a tricky thing to me because like the open source project is kind of like the inner core, and like things related to running it in production. Like let's take for example like a Kubernetes operator. I think we could probably all agree like the Kubernetes operator shouldn't be inside of the Postgres project per se, but that means like things, backup, a backup strategy can't be inside of the project either. It's just these edges are interesting. I think it's just like how much observability should be inside of versus outside of the core. Would you argue all of it should be inside? Like, would you say PG Sentinel ought to be merged into core?
No, I don't think so, because I mean, an extension is enough to have this kind of observability, but
but people don't know it exists, right? Unless they find it. That's the tricky part. Like,
that's the problem.
Yeah. So I think like discoverability of extensions. That's one of the things we're working pretty hard on too. Is trying to. I think it'd be great to have like we want to have metadata. Maybe at some point. Like we haven't really talked to the Amazon team about this, but I want to basically have a place where managed service providers can report like which extensions are being used. So just so we can know like what's popular, what goes well with something else, like what pairs nicely with, if I'm using 5 extensions, what's the 6th extension I ought to be using, given that profile would be nice. Because I think like digging into these extensions is a big opportunity for developers. And like I said, like someone might be banging their head against this, the problem that PG Sentinel solves. Developers might be, and I've banged my head against that problem for hours, not days or anything like that, but I've thought about it. I've like checked for the, like certainly there's got to be a history of active sessions, somewhere in here, and it's like couldn't really find it, or even a way to make it very easily. That was my thought, is like should be some way to create it. But anyway, curious, like do you listen to podcasts very much?
Times to times, yes. But it really depends what I am doing, and if one of them pop up, then depending of the subject, yes, I can listen to one.
Yeah. What are your favorite podcasts, even if it's non, technical? I'm always looking for good new podcasts to listen to.
Yeah, there is the Postgres podcast done by Data Lab,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like that one?
That I like, yeah.
Yeah. What, any others?
I am also following yours, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like about half of my feed is like a Postgres related podcast, but I also love to get some other stuff mixed in, and just like, it's hard to work all the time, but yeah, it's nice to have. I think it's great that you can just kind of passively gain Postgres knowledge now just by having that on while you're, mowing the lawn or doing dishes or whatever. So,
yeah. And awesome. The one done by Nikolai by Data Lab is very good, I think.
Yeah. Nikolai, he's doing his, are you watching his Postgres marathon? I forget, something marathon, where he's posting content every day for a year.
Yeah.
He's a madman. That's a lot of work.
Exactly. Yes.
But I appreciate that he's doing it.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, it's really cool. Well, so are you very active online? Where people want to follow you, and what's your favorite place to interact with others in the community besides the mailing list?
Yeah, I am mainly on Twitter, and I think that's it for the social media. Yeah.
On Twitter, do you think is Twitter better or worse after Elon took over?
I think it works. Not that good as before.
Yeah. Okay. You like the original.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I think I like is that he's like playing with it, and trying some new stuff. Like the fact that we're posting this podcast to Twitter first, just to, I mean, at least it's like the world's changing and we can do that. Otherwise, it would have been just clearly just drop it on YouTube. But I kind of like that he's trying some new ideas. In terms of, obviously, like, a lot of people are pissed off that it's like, paying, you got to pay to get priority, blah, 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 but anyway, well, cool. Well, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to chat about, but I enjoyed learning more about this, and I'm going to immediately go try to install PG Sentinel and see what it does for us.
Yeah. No problem. I can help with that if you need to.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining, and appreciate it.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you for inviting me.